On a rainy Thursday afternoon in Columbus, a little boy sat cross-legged on a cold concrete floor, refusing to move. Around him, barking echoed. Metal cages rattled. Volunteers whispered nervously. His mother pleaded. The shelter manager sighed. But the boy didn't budge, because inside the last cage in the corner was a dog no one else wanted. A dog everyone said was broken, dangerous, too far gone. And the boy had just whispered 6 words that made the entire room fall silent. If he stays, I stay too. The shelter called him Rufus, though no one knew if that had ever been his real name. He'd been brought in 3 months earlier, tied to a stop sign with a frayed rope and a note that read, "I am sorry. I can't handle him anymore. No explanation, no signature, just apology and abandonment." Rufus was a German Shepherd mix, maybe 5 years old, maybe older. His fur was patchy in places, one ear bent awkwardly forward like it had healed wrong, and a long scar ran from his shoulder down to his chest. His eyes, dark amber, carried a look shelter workers knew too well. Not aggression, not fear, resignation. At first, they tried to showcase him. They posted photos online. They described him as loyal, protective, strong. But every potential adopter said the same thing. He looks intimidating. Or does he bite? Or worse, do you have anything cuter? After a while, they stopped putting his picture on the front page. They moved his kennel to the back row. Visitors rarely made it that far. 6-year-old Eli Carter had been asking for a dog for 417 days. Not 400, not about a year. 417. He knew because he'd marked each day on a calendar taped beside his bed. His mother, Lila, had said no every time. Not because she didn't love dogs. She did. But since Eli's father passed away 2 years earlier, life had become a careful balancing act of bills, school schedules, and quiet nights filled with memories she didn't talk about. A dog felt like too much. Too much money. Too much time. Too much responsibility. But Eli didn't ask for any dog. He always said the same thing. "I don't want a puppy. I want a dog nobody wants." At first, she thought it was cute. Then she realized he was serious. And that's how they ended up at the shelter that Thursday afternoon. Not to adopt, she insisted, but just to look. Most children ran toward puppies. Eli walked past them. Tiny paws scratched a glass. High-pitched yips filled the air. Volunteers pointed eagerly. "Look at this one. He's great with kids." Eli smiled politely. But he kept walking, past the playful dogs, past the wagging tails, past the hopeful eyes, until he reached the last kennel. Rufus didn't stand, didn't bark, didn't wag. He simply lifted his head slightly and looked at the boy. The world seemed to shrink to the space between them. Eli stepped closer. Rufus didn't move. A volunteer hurried over. "Sweetie, that one's not really." "It's okay," Eli said softly. "He's tired." The volunteer blinked. "What?" "He's tired of waiting." Silence. The boy knelt. Slowly, carefully, he slid his small fingers through the bars. Everyone held their breath. Rufus stared at the hand for a long time. Then, gently, he leaned forward and rested his chin on the boy's fingers. Not licking, not nudging, just resting, like he'd finally found something soft enough to trust. "Ma'am," the shelter manager said quietly to Lila, "that dog has a history we don't fully know. He startles easily. He doesn't interact much. We think he may have been mistreated." Lila nodded, heart tightening. "I understand. He hasn't been adopted because most families want easier dogs." Behind them, Eli whispered to Rufus, telling him about school, about dinosaurs, about how he hated broccoli but liked carrots if they were roasted. Rufus didn't move, but his eyes never left the boy. "We can show him some friendlier options," the manager offered gently. Lila swallowed. "Eli, honey." "No." The word was quiet, but firm. He didn't turn around. "I pick him." "You don't know him yet," she said softly. Eli finally looked back. "Edo." Adults often mistake silence for emptiness. Children don't. Eli saw what the others didn't. He didn't see a scar. He saw a story. He didn't see a withdrawn dog. He saw a lonely one. And loneliness, he understood better than most kids his age. After his father died, people had spoken in hushed tones around him. Teachers gave him gentle smiles. Neighbors patted his head, but no one asked the question he wished someone would. Are you okay? Rufus's eyes asked that question without words, and Eli answered the only way he knew how, by staying. We should go, Lila said softly after 10 minutes. Eli didn't move. Honey, nothing. A volunteer shifted awkwardly. This happens sometimes, kids get attached. He's not attached, Eli said calmly. He's waiting. For what? Lila asked. For someone who won't leave. The words hit harder than anyone expected. Lila felt her throat tighten. Eli, she whispered, we can't take him home today. The boy nodded. Okay. Relief flickered across her face. Then he added, I'll stay here with him. Before anyone could react, Eli sat cross-legged on the concrete floor, right in front of Rufus's kennel, and stayed there. Minutes passed. Visitors stared. Staff whispered. Lila tried reasoning, bribing, promising ice cream, promising pizza, promising a trip to the zoo. Nothing worked. Finally, she asked, why him? Eli looked at Rufus. Because everyone else keeps walking away. Part 8. The dogs passed. The shelter manager knelt beside Lila and spoke quietly. We don't usually share this, but I think you should know. Rufus had been found after a police call about a disturbance. Neighbors reported shouting, crashing noises, and a dog barking nonstop. When officers arrived, the house was empty. Furniture overturned, walls punched through, dishes shattered, and Rufus, tied to a radiator, alone. No food nearby, no water, just rope burns around his neck and silence thick with fear. No owner ever came forward. Since then, loud noises made him freeze. Quick movements made him flinch. But he'd never bitten anyone, not once. He's not aggressive, the manager said. He's heartbroken. Lila watched her son sitting on the cold floor, humming softly to a dog the world had discarded. She saw the way Rufus leaned closer with every note. Saw the way Eli didn't try to pull him, didn't demand, didn't rush. Just stayed, and suddenly she realized something painful. Her son wasn't trying to rescue the dog. He was trying to rescue something inside himself. Something grief had quietly taken. She exhaled slowly. How long, she asked the manager, before a dog like him runs out of time? The manager hesitated, then answered honestly, not long. Lila walked over and knelt beside her son. If we take him, she said gently, you have to help me. Feeding, walking, training. He'll need patience. Eli nodded immediately. He might never be like other dogs. That's okay. He might be scared sometimes. I know. She searched his face. You're sure? Eli looked at Rufus, then back at her, and whispered the 6 words that would stay with her forever. He's just waiting for someone gentle. The kennel door opened. Staff watched closely. Rufus stayed still as Eli stepped inside. The boy didn't rush, didn't hug, didn't squeal. He simply sat again inside the kennel this time. Seconds passed, then a minute, then 2. Slowly, cautiously, Rufus shifted forward, lowered himself, and rested his head in the boy's lap. A volunteer covered her mouth. The manager wiped his eyes, because in 3 months, Rufus had never touched anyone first. The first weeks weren't magical. Rufus woke at night whining. He flinched when doors closed. Thunderstorms made him hide under the kitchen table, shaking so hard his tags rattled. Once, when a pan clattered to the floor, he bolted into a corner and wouldn't come out for an hour. Lila wondered if she'd made a mistake, if love alone wasn't enough. But Eli never doubted. He'd sit beside Rufus during storms, reading aloud from comic books. He'd whisper, it's okay. Loud doesn't mean bad. He'd leave pieces of toast near Rufus's bed every morning like tiny peace offerings. Day by day, the trembling lessened. The flinching slowed. The eyes softened. One afternoon at the park, a skateboard clattered loudly nearby. Rufus froze, muscles stiff, ears back. Lila held her breath. Old fear flickered in his eyes. Then Eli's small hand slipped into his fur. I'm here, he said. Rufus blinked, looked at the boy, and instead of panicking, he leaned into him. That was the moment Lila knew. They hadn't saved the dog. They'd save each other. On the anniversary of the day they met, Eli brought Rufus back to the shelter. This time, Rufus walked confidently beside him, tail swaying gently. Volunteers gasped. "Is that? No way. The same dog." The manager knelt and scratched Rufus behind the ear. "You look different, my friend." Rufus licked his hand. "First time ever. Ili myth." He smiles now. They spent the afternoon helping younger kids meet shy dogs. Rufus lay calmly beside Eli, letting nervous children pet him, showing them that fear could turn into trust. Before leaving, Eli walked to the last kennel in the back row. It was empty. He smiled. "Good," he whispered. That night, as Rufus slept with his head on Eli's sneakers, Lila asked quietly, "Why did you pick him that day?" Eli thought for a moment, then answered, "Because he looked like he needed someone who wouldn't give up." She brushed hair from his forehead. "And what if he never got better?" Eli shrugged gently. "Then I'd still stay." Not every hero is loud. Not every rescue makes headlines. Sometimes the bravest thing anyone can do is sit on a cold floor beside someone the world forgot and refuse to leave. Because love doesn't always arrive wagging its tail. Sometimes it waits quietly in the last cage, hoping one person will finally see it. And on one rainy afternoon in Ohio, a 6-year-old did. If this story touched your heart, take a second right now to make a difference. Red heart, hit like so more people can see Rufus's journey. Subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us what love really means. And most importantly, if you ever have the chance to give someone a second chance, whether it's a person or a dog the world forgot, don't walk away. Because sometimes one decision can save a life. Back and index pointing down, tell us in the comments. Would you have chosen Rufus too?